So today I will fill in the time that people are not asking questions with talking about decks that you might add onto your house, or you might add onto your mobile home or a small building, even camper. First of all, you don't have to build a deck out of wood. That being said, you can have a patio that's like a deck off the side of the house if the ground is low enough, or if you filled in a perimeter that would hold the earth in, and then pour concrete, and then, or just pour sand or get sand in there and then put your rocks on top of that. But a patio slash deck can be something more than wood. You can do ceramic tile, but you need to make sure that when you do ceramic tile, you make sure that it's not slick. I've seen people do that, and when it gets wet, you slide and fall. So you might want to think about any kind of slick surface. Do you want your deck level? Is one thing you need to ask yourself, and you say, "Of course I do." If you look back in the old days, you would see that people didn't have their front porch slash deck level because they wanted the rain to slide off, not to stay on their deck and then lose what wood was hard to come by, and then lose it. You would have that choice if there's no place for the water to go. You might want to run it away from your house instead of letting it sit on your house. And then something like snow and ice and that kind of thing can melt, and literally the snow can be out on the outside edge more, and the water can't get back, so it ends up going back into your house. Again, these are things that I want to talk to you about. To keep that kind of thing from happening, you would put flashing on top of the frame of the deck, and then you put your finished material wood. You would sit on top of the flashing. That flashing goes up the wall. Now, sometimes you have to take siding off to get it up under the wall, the siding of the wall, but you need to get that done. When it comes to styles of decks, there's books and books and books about it. Generally, a smaller deck up to about 10 foot. You can go to 12 foot, but you have to have more support. You can do with a 2x6, but generally you're going to want support every 6 feet. Also, I put that support about a foot from the outside edge, and you're like, why would you do that? Unless I know I'm going to put a building on top of it, that's what I do. Why would I do it? Well, it allows me to put clothes in underneath with skirting, and it puts the support where the actual weight is. Like when you're standing near the deck, you're not standing where the handrail is, you're standing just a little bit back from the handrail. Even if you're sitting in a chair, not all your weight is in the back two legs of the chair, it's actually spread out. So your weight, and that also allows you to make a wider deck because you have that 1 foot 18 inches max of 2 foot sticking out. If you're going to build a roof over it, you still can get away with that, but you need to understand you need to support that roof with the deck material. Say if you're using 5/4 material, which is 1.25 inches thick and rounded, it might not support the roof cover. So you need to think about that. I generally don't encourage decks that are done with 5/4. They look pretty, but they cost as much, if not more, than a regular 2x6. And your 2x6 is 1 5/8, not 1.25 inches, so you get 3/8 more material and supports a lot more weight. Doesn't warp as bad. And by the way, that 5/4 material will warp like crazy. Even in the stack where you go to pick it out, you'll find that it's very warped. 2x6s tend to stay straighter longer. That doesn't guarantee that when you go to pick out your material that it's straight either. And I don't myself use nails. The only time I use nails for anything is for either roofing shingles, and you can use staples for that, or finish nails, because the weather causes the wood to shrink and expand with heat and cold. The cold would be making it shrink, and the wood would expand a little bit with heat. If you have a nail, that material picks that nail up and it works that nail out more than a screw. It's rare that a screw does that. And when it comes to deck coatings and stuff like that, this is going to hurt some guys' feelings, but I don't generally build decks with coated screws. I have had this discussion with deck screw salesmen who happen to be at Lowe's or Home Depot or multiple places, and they always try to correct me. No, you need to use this coated screw. I have been building decks for almost 30 years, and some of those decks, most of those decks, as far as I know, every one of those decks are still there. So what it was supposed to cause is the screws would rust and they wouldn't hold the wood. That has not been the case. So you can buy the added cost screws. You can get. So we had technical problem, which we have had now for the 10th time. So anyway, what I was talking about was screws is what I use, and I don't bother to use the coated ones because it does not and has not made a difference in the 30 years that the decks I started building, which I personally started doing decks probably 29 years ago in this area, and I built decks before that. And I started using screws and never looked back. And I didn't use any coated screw. From time to time, customer says, hey, that's what I want, then I'll do that. What I found was, like with the yellow coated screws and the star heads, they will be quite a few of them are filled with paint. And the same with galvanized screws back in the day when that was the thing to use. Not only did they have the galvanized filled in, the tip didn't fit the screws because I think the screws were originally the same mold and same shape, and then they just put the coating in it, which made it not fit the tip of the screw gun. But not only that, I guess because of the heat treatment, the heads used to break off. And it used to frustrate me because like 1 in 10 or 12 screws would break off. And I was using, a lot of care to not do that. So it got really frustrating because nobody wants to hammer over a screw or try to take it out when it's got the head broke off. But anyway, what I'm saying is it's not that you shouldn't, you can, but you're going to end up staining that deck most likely. And that's something we can talk about. Or painting it. I used to use 2 screws per joist through a 2x6, or even the 5/4 sports, 2. Many years ago, I started using 3 screws, and I have had less problems with any kind of wood movement. And I usually use a 3-inch screw and not a 2.5. Of late, they make a tape that you put over the floor, the joist, the frame that you make for the deck. I have done that. It seems expensive, but I have no way to tell you if it will make it last longer. I would suggest it will, but I don't know. It could actually cause some other issue with the in-between. So now you're holding moisture there and it's not soaking into the wood to evaporate later. It's sitting right on top of that tape up against the bottom of your deck board. I wonder if that board will rot from the bottom because the tape's there. It kind of makes sense to me that the tape is holding the water off, but that's the thing they're recommending now. I use screws. I use 3 per joist. It seems a little bit overkill, but it's worked for me for a long time. You can use 2 and be fine. I also use 3-inch screws when I'm building decks, even if it's 1.25 inch material or 5/4 board. The choices when it comes to staining are unlimited, but generally stain is better than paint. Not always, but generally. The reason is the stain sinks pretty far down into the wood, further than, and you can get, semi-transparent, transparent, semi-transparent, and solid stain in any number of colors. It's amazing how many colors you can get. But you should if you're trying to figure it out, you should take out some wood and try your stain first. Should you stain it as soon as you build your deck? No. If it's deck material, it's pressure treated. It's a water-based treatment to the wood. And now it has been my experience that stain will cause issues with blistering off when the heat gets on it. The water will try to come out of that wood, that water-based treatment, water treatment will blister off the paint in places or the stain in places. So I suggest you give it 6 months, let it dry out, and when it gets dry, take a piece of wood, not on your deck necessarily, and start trying different colors. See what you like. Now, semi-transparent and transparent are dramatically different. and semi-transparent and solid are dramatically different. You need to check those out and see if you like it before you go. You can go darker, but you're not necessarily going to be able to match the same shade because now you're doing it even more. You can't go lighter. You can't go back when it comes to stain. And paint. Paint particularly will blister off if it's not had time to dry out. And there's unlimited amount of paints, and there's a lot of good paints out there. I've done the Decorect, and there have been a few issues with Decorect. Not enough to say that Decorect is bad. I'm not going to tell you that. And that is usually used on a older deck that's got a lot of age on it, but it's still kind of blistered up here and there. So, you might consider the fact that that's a very expensive deck covering when it comes to wood. Check out what other people say, but my experience is that it has issues. Also, you can clean an old deck. I think we've got a couple of videos that we show using OxiClean for video. And there's another chemical, I forgot what it's called.
Paracarbonate.
Yeah, it's a carbonate. It's kind of hard to come by. You have to order it, but it's not a dangerous chemical at all. All these things are doing is, like, if you can use OxiClean, you can understand it's not going to hurt you unless you eat it. It might make you sick then. But you scrub on that deck and it will come clean. You don't have to, if you pressure wash a deck, which seemingly that's faster, but understand when you pressure wash a deck, it will tend to knock out the softer part of the wood and not the hard wood grain, and that'll end up making it stand up, and there'll be a lot of splinters. So when you pressure wash, that's something you need to keep in mind. The supports that you put in, you're generally going to want to be on 16-inch centers. You can do 2 foot. You start having problems when you go 2 foot on center with the frame. And again, I want to tell you, the supports underneath, I wouldn't go more than 6 foot unless you go to 2x8 or 2x10. Now, when it comes to the outside edge of the deck, you might have cut-off boards, and generally you will. You can cover those cut-off boards with another 2x6, even a 2x4 turned on flat up against it, covering up that cut edge all the way around. And if that bothers you, or you think you could make it better, there's a lot of choices with that. You can also cover the whole of the other deck, not just that area up at the top. I've seen people put 2x8s on a 2x6 deck that has that outside. And then there's lots of choices on handrails. Generally, I use 4x4s, but the customer can tell me what they want. For the supports, and I usually don't go more than 8 foot, I put 2x4s, generally 7 inches up, not right against the deck, because if you want to push off snow, or if you want to push off leaves, just sweep. If it's all the way down against that deck, it's hard to, you have to really work. You have a lot of corners to work with. Whereas if it's up a little bit, you can get your broom underneath it and sweep all that stuff off, or push the snow off in that case. So when you start making these choices, there's tons of drawings and tons of pictures to get ideas from. So I suggest you find something that you feel comfortable with and you think will work well with the house that you're in. Now, understand that the fancier you get, the more expensive it is. That's just the way life is. So, like, for instance, if you were to do the cables, and that way you hardly have anything to stop you from seeing, you could do metal instead of 4x4s and drill holes and then run cable through and tighten it at the end. That's really neat. It kind of it lends itself to expose the house behind it and not to have the handrail block. It's a little bit on the spooky side. People tend less to lean on those cables or be up against them, but it does keep you from falling off, and it looks neat. It has its own special look. May not go good with a Victorian home, but it might go good with ultra modern architectural home. It depends on what you're trying to do, and colors can make a difference. And nowadays there's lots of programs where you can literally show the color of your home, the shape of your home, and add decks, both, and look at it from the top and look at it from the front, And you can decide your colors and the handrail shapes. And there's a lot of choices when it comes to handrail shape. There's also another deck covering, which is the ground up plastic deck coverings out there. They're exceptionally expensive. As far as long lasting, I believe they're long lasting. I don't know how they are to maintain. I've seen them where they're fuzzy, but they're a little on the labor intensive side generally. So some of them have spacers that go in between and goes into the grooves. Others you can screw right through with screws that are hard to see. But you want they will punish you if you don't do it right. Of course, the deck will, but those particularly will. You're not changing the color of that deck ever again. That's what the color is. I'm sure there's an exception to every rule, but I think you're going to find that that's the case. The design that you put on the deck can be a herringbone where you might meet in the middle at 45. Again, you're getting to very labor intensive cost of time. If you're paying somebody, that's money. If you're doing it yourself, it's a lot of time. You can use up the material, but you need to have somebody that's conscious of the material. And if you're saving the material, it costs time. So those are all things you got to balance out. One of the things I kind of harp on with the guys and people that I deal with when it comes to trying to figure out a budget, that generally you have 3 choices. And you can have 2 of the 3. That's cost, speed, and quality. Now, if you choose, I want quality, you can't have speed without high cost. You can't have low cost, high speed, and high quality. You can't have high quality and high speed generally. You're going to have to take time. Those 3 factors you're always going to find. If you try to get them, they're going to have high cost. Those 2 right there are going to have high cost. If you want to get low cost, or if you want, I know normally people say, I want to spend money, then you can get high quality. And you can get it you can put a whole lot of people on the job and get it done. But it costs a lot of money. So if you're trying to reduce your costs, you got to reduce your quality or, cut the time. You have those choices to factor, and you're going to get 2 of them. You're not going to get low cost, high quality, and high speed. It's just not going to happen. When you go to a high deck, you will have to support that deck. When it touches the ground, a lot of people will dig holes and pour concrete. And when they do, it's around that post and it's held as level as possible, braced all up. And that generally is a good idea. The one problem that you will have is when it settles, you have to disconnect the deck from it and raise it up. That's not an easy thing. The water sits on top of that concrete, even if you put dirt over it to hide it, sits on top of that concrete and it rots out the 4x4 or the 6x6 or the 8x8, whatever it is you're using, and it will rot it off. And now you've got to figure out how to level that deck again. It's, again, high cost, high labor, and you have to decide if that's what you need to do. There's a lot of rules, and I could spend hours talking about it, how big you need it to be if you're going to have a lot of weight, how much support as far as, I usually use 2 2x6s, or you can use a 2x8s, and notch into a 4x4 so that it's not going to slide. But you can use brackets, and that we're getting into higher cost and more time. So the brackets are great, but you can also, if you're building against the house, that frame doesn't have to have brackets. You could put a 2x6 or whatever size of your frame is, 2x8s, 2x10s, 2x12s. You could put one in between each one. So basically 14.5 inches in between, and fasten to that. So it's screwed 2 in between them, and then you screw through it from both sides, and you can toenail it. Brackets are interesting in that there's added time, and they need to pay attention, because once you get your layout off, that's a lot of work to take those off. It helps if you do them with screws, because you can pull a screw out. Nails don't come out as easy. They do come out, but they don't come out as easy. Do I put supports right up against the house? No. Generally, if I think I'm going to have a lot of weight against the house, I run a support about 2 feet out, and then I lag bolt everything to the frame of the house. Usually the house will be 2x8, 2x10, sometimes 2x6, but you're screwing those lag bolts into that house to hold it in place. If it's a steep hillside, I will put braces down from the back, from where it connects to the house, down to across the legs, and down to the, onto the ground near the leg. If sometimes I can hit two 4x4s with like a 16-foot board, that's what I can do. And that's why I tend to make my 4x4s line up on the same board on that frame so that they can run beside it and brace. And I think you'll see some of that in some of the videos. That way the whole frame will tend to, it won't like all of it fold and head roll and tilt to go down, because now you have these braces keeping it from going down the hill. And I've actually taken jacks and jacked the house deck right back up against the house, lagged it where they didn't lag it. I tell people all the time, say you shouldn't put decks up against mobile homes. It's just not true. If you can build an addition, you can build a deck. Just build the deck right, as if you're going to build an addition. If you're trying to tell me you can't build an addition on a mobile home, well, I've already discussed that.
What's the best thing to strip off paint of deck to stain it? That's the Childress family.
To strip off the paint, it depends on the thickness of the paint, and you can really scrub on it if it's been there very long. You can use a stiff brush, and I would try scrubbing it off before I use the pressure washer. Pressure washer's next. When you do, you're going to lose some of the soft part of that wood and then go to stain. Generally, the paint wants to come off. It may be more work than you want to when it comes to the scrubbing. It's a lot of work, but it saves the wood generally, the soft part of the wood. So if you go to pressure washer, generally a pressure washer will, or even they make a high pressure wand. I think it's like $15-20, and your pressure from your I think Lowe's sells it too. It has a little tiny hole, and it sprays out a spray about that wide, and it really pressures hard. That will knock off a lot of paint, but a pressure washer kicks it up to the next level. And of course, you're knocking off the soft part of your wood. Even then, you're going to find you may have to sand in places. So, getting paint off. Funny thing is, paint will come off in places, but then you'll have a hard time getting it off in other places. So, I mean, your first choice is to scrub it off with the OxiClean, see if it'll come off. Your second choice is to use a high pressure wand, was like $20. Your third choice is to pressure wash, and then you may have to sand in places. I hope that gives you an answer. It's still better and cheaper than replacing the wood. A lot better, cheaper. Everything's more expensive now. Inflationary parts of your choices now and accomplishments now are going to be worth a lot in the future, both because the materials are higher and the labor is going to be higher too. I think what's going to happen is 2008, 2010, they called this that area the Great Recession. But when we were in it, they weren't calling it that, were they? I believe we're in something more than the Great Recession. I would say we're heading for, if we're not already in a depression. And there's a lot of people that are suffering, and the costs of things are going through the roof. So labor is going to go through the roof. Everything you're doing now is better than waiting till later. Kind of the old classic, don't put off till tomorrow what you can do today. The answer to every question is hard work and good choices. Make good choices. And as you guys seem to have that together as a family. And I'm really proud of you guys, by the way.
And thank you for coming in, putting up with all our mistakes and helping us out with the audio.
We're a good example how we are not perfect, and we have to live with our imperfection. It keeps us humble. We all fall short, as it says in the Bible, we all fall short of the glory of God. Well, we fall plenty short. Living and learning, I guess, even in this electronic world. By the way, I haven't found any kind of AI program that would replace actual hard work. The AI program can tell you all kinds of things and recommend things, but you still got to do it. And they have machinery now. Doesn't mean that automatic machinery is going to do work around your house. It might dig the ditch, but you got to have somebody there. And anybody that goes out there and tries to do their work, I'm proud of them. We have to start being accountable to our own deterioration. If we don't do the work, then how does this engine that is our body gonna stay alive? Building decks, it's actually quite rewarding. Even refurbishing a deck like you guys are getting ready to do, it makes you feel like you're doing things with your hands.
And it makes your house better.
Yeah.
And if you got a big family and a big deck, man, those are the bomb.
Yeah, hanging out on the deck, cooking on a good day, whether it be your temperatures warm or in the 70s or something. cool breeze on a hot day on the deck is nice. So it's comforting. The work that you do on the deck is sometimes more rewarding than, well, a lot of times more rewarding than doing the plumbing, because nobody sees that. You just get results. A deck can totally change the look of a home, both from the road or from the back. Just totally change the viewpoint of people that live in that home also.
The cost to build a deck is out of control. That is no joke. Materials, labor, everything.
Yeah, kind of reminds me that what we need to start doing is looking around to find decks that somebody tore off, you know, and hauling it on a trailer. You know, I moved a deck down a freeway that was 16 foot wide, but I told the guy, I said, look, I'm not gonna try to pull permits because this would be real expensive. He says, yeah, I already looked into somebody moving it for me. Do you think you could do it? I said, yeah, if you don't mind me cutting it in half. We'll put it back together, tilted up on trailer.
Childers Family is asking you, thinking about starting a handyman service, doing odd jobs. What's your opinion of how to get jobs and to advertise? Which we need to do an entire series of streams on different things like estimating jobs,
Yeah,
the advertising, things like that.
All right. What would I do if I was starting out? It all depends on your
skill level,
your experience. Yeah, skill level. But I've told guys who work for me and then all of a sudden thought they could do what I do. I've got a couple of them. There've been many more that started and just quit. What I tell them to do is go to realtors and leave a card. And the thing about this phone that you have, you can take pictures of your work and then put it out online, so that's your resume. That's what YouTube was for me. And then really protect your reputation. And I know you do that already. But you have to, if anybody starts accusing you of stealing, you need to stop. If somebody starts accusing you of being dishonest, you need to correct them right away and say, hey, look, if you think I'm being dishonest, it's time for me to stop.
Alpha Light says, hello, sir. Hope you're doing well.
How you do, man? Glad to have you around. So, you know, if you're going to start your own business, the best advertising out there, well, word of mouth is very, very inexpensive and good for you. That's why I say protect your reputation. You don't want to just, hey, I'm in a hurry, because you get in a hurry sometimes. Schedule, weather's coming, you know, and you do a poor job.
I know what I would tell them to do.
Postcards.
That's what I was just thinking.
I was leading to.
Yeah, because that's been the best advertising, the best ROI, even without these people knowing us.
What we're talking about is postcards, and we send it to specific areas, and they cost around, I guess they're up to near 40 cents or 50 cents a stamp, and the postcard itself is what, 35, 40? Anyway,
yeah.
So your postcard stamps are cheaper than regular stamps, and you put on your postcard a picture of whatever work you think you can do, and on the back side where your address would be, you make a coupon.
And I will tell you this part. Contact the county that you're in. They will have records of anybody who owns property. We happen to be laser focused on mobile home simply because it's an open niche. Nobody's taking care of that. So, oh, that's neat. That's a great idea. Maria 28 is saying, a member of the local landlord association in my county. They meet once a quarter and you can contact them.
Right. And there's networking groups that are always looking for the repairman in that group. So some of those people have like a printing company.
But the tax rolls, I don't think I finished what I was saying. You can contact the county and get the tax rolls for whatever county you want to work in, and that gives you your starting list. And it's usually a minimum cost.
You know, thousands of addresses cost us like $30.
I think $30 is all I paid for 3 or 4 counties. And a lot of times, if you talk really sweet to the county person, a lot of times they need a home improvement person and so you might be able to just get it for free. Like Washington and Benton County, which is our 2 largest, they just sent it to me, and I think he ended up doing work for them.
Right. So it has to do with talking to people. You may be awkward at first talking to people, but the feeling that you have in you will come out. That personality that's in you, the kindness, the goodness in you will come out. At the same count, if you're a bad person,
They'll know.
particularly women will know. And I will say this, as a repairman, believe it or not, 80 to 90% of the time you're working for women.
And that's who's going to make that
It
decision.
may be that a man pays for it, but you're working for women because they have what they want in the home. They're making sure things are getting done. He may have to go work, and then she says, "Oh, this is what I want." Now he may come in and override something, but it's rare. Only the most controlling men want to tell, women exactly what they want in the house. They generally want the woman who spends all her time in the house to contribute what she wants in the project, whether it's adjusting a door or, putting up the simplest of things, like putting up picture frames where she wants to put them. I'll tell you one that I did for a commercial company. LED lights, which are really well made, they end up having bugs, spiders killing bugs and dropping it down inside the light, so that I had to take the cover off, which was full of little bugs, and the cover on the LED off, which is had bugs in it. All that blocking the light from going out. They paid me to drive and take care of that. The simplest of things, there'll probably be limits about what you want to do or what you can afford to do. Sometimes some of these projects, there's a lot of money involved. I try to encourage people to, if they want a project done, and like when it comes to paint, I generally want the customer to buy the paint. Now why? Because it is so easy to mistake. I didn't want that orange. I wanted a lighter orange. And how many different shades of orange are there? There's a lot. And the yellows and browns and whites and all the blends in between. I generally want the customer to be involved. This is what I want. Okay? And then write everything down. Follow up estimates. I generally don't charge for estimates unless it's an insurance job. And guess what? I charge for estimates then. And I tell them, if you get me to do the work, I will refund you the $75 that I charge for the estimate. But generally people, a high percentage of people who get you to do estimates on insurance are not going to use you. They're going to have somebody else do it that's cheaper than you, or they're going to do it themselves, or they're not going to do anything with the money, with fixing it. They're just going to keep the money. Hey, look, I will spend the time to do all the estimate, checking on the materials and all that. So another thing you need to remember this inflationary time period is be careful about getting tied into a job for more than a month or so.
Make sure it's dated.
No, this is only good for 60 days or something, because
I wouldn't even do that long.
Yeah, you got to be careful because plywood can change overnight. You can see an $8 piece of OSB go to $35 in a short period of time. And you can see even simple things like a 2x4, 2x6 all of a sudden get nuts. And particularly when everything's steadily going up, be careful about getting yourself too far into material game. So again, if the customer is, and I don't mark up material.
You'd have the customer get the materials too.
If, and on occasion, the customers do get materials. Because not everybody has a truck and trailer, nor do they have the time to do it, nor do they know where to go when it comes to some materials. So I spend time working with the customer, and I understand it's my job to make their lives better. That's what I do. And if we're a servant to mankind, we try to help one another. We should, anyway. If you have that in your mind, I think you will find that if you're trying to make other people's lives better, they'll give you the work. You have to decide if you can, what your skill level is. I remember the first time I worked for a commercial company called me. He owned 4 radio stations at the time. And he said he was a busy guy. And he's that way. And he's gone now. He's like, so sit down, tell me what it is you do. And I tell him all the things I do. And he says, what are you weak at? And I said, I'm not very good at wallpaper and not very good at ceramic tile. Well, that guy, the first thing he had me do was felt wallpaper, dark green, and extremely complex ceramic tile. He told me a year later that he was doing it just to see how I was under pressure. And boy, he did. He put me on pressure. I don't know if you know anything about, you guys know anything about wallpaper, but dark green felt wallpaper, it's hard to get the glue out of that green. You just can't be messy. You have to keep everything clean. You have to keep cleaning all the time if you do get something on it. And then the second wallpaper he had was heavy, complex pattern. It was
I hate wallpaper.
Yeah, I don't like it either. So I mean, he did everything he could to test me, and I just stayed in there and did what I said I would do. And I stayed working for him for years, years and years and years. So sometimes when you bid a job, starting out, you will lose money because you didn't. I'll tell you one way I used to lose money. I used to forget the time it would take to go get the material and come back. I'd estimate the job. I knew exactly how long it would take me. I knew how much the materials cost. I got it all burned up, and I forgot about the time to go get the material and come back. Sometimes an hour and a half drive. I've done jobs that were 2 hours away, but of course the material's closer than that. But I'm just saying, you know, an hour and a half in this area, rural area, which I think you guys are, you might have to go a ways to go to a supply house and find out they don't have it there, and you have to go to another one. And, you know, so you end up getting material at two different places. If you don't allow the time to get that in there, you can lose money doing that. How? Well, I mean, technically you're trying to make a certain amount of money to cover your gas, your wear and tear on your vehicle. You know, you got some bills you want to try to cover or something you're saving up for, but you can literally spin your wheels, not making any money. So that's, so it's sort of a double negative. It actually costs you money for wear and tear on your vehicle and the fuel. And if you have somebody working with you that you're paying, you're having to pay them. So that's all negative as opposed to actually working and making money. So you're not working and making money, but you're actually spending money. It's a double negative. So in that time period that you should have been making money, you're literally losing money because you didn't count that. And I was just flabbergasted how I didn't. My guys would all get paid really good, and I'm like, man, how'd I end up making less money than them? I'll tell you one wonderful woman that I worked for up in Marshfield for quite a long time. It's a 2.5 hour drive. I wanted to help her because she's a wonderful person, and she has a paraplegic daughter she's trying to take care of. Wonderful person. And I just wanted to, she had a hard time with contractors. She wanted to know if I would help, and I wanted to. So I drove, and I paid my guys to drive.
You don't charge differently for carpentry versus you just charge the same rate for all the different trades.
I do so many different things that I try not to charge more.
She's saying, how much do you charge for an hour of carpentry?
It's the same for all of it.
Yeah. What you do, $80 an hour?
I have two people, with me and another person, it's $80 an hour. And people flinch sometimes, not always.
That is way low.
In our area, that's cheap. But what I tell people is it's not how much you're paying, it's how much you get for the money you're paying. So you can pay somebody $100 an hour and they don't get anything done.
Here's something. If you're going to have business, a or a handyman business, stay away from payments. They'll drown you.
Yeah.
Children's family, Phil, how do I price painting the outside of a mobile home 16 by 80? If they provide the paint, how much should I charge for labor over?
Well, it depends on the surface. I would get an hourly rate. That allows me to fix things as I go along. If I see something needs to be fixed, I fix it. Whereas if I'm just getting paid to paint it, you know, like, hey man, if I stop now, so if you're trying to do an airless, which by the way, airless sprayers, they have a lot of liability. So like the wind catches that spray and it goes and gets on cars, their cars or other parts of the house. I can't tell you how many times I've seen airless spray on a roof of a nice home. I was talking to somebody that was in the Seattle area, and these guys were spraying, and it covered a whole bunch of cars. And so the liability on, you understand, it's very quick. So yes, you can, but it's a ton of money. If you don't maintain that thing, you don't keep it clean, you make one mistake in that area, you could spend a lot of time rebuilding it too. So I generally don't. I generally don't use an airless. I have, s- her chicken houses for one. But um, how much do I how
You let me use it, which is
right?
even scarier.
So so painting, it depends on how much trim work you're doing, how high it is that you're going. But if I'm charging by the hour, what would I charge?
Is he located in the same area we are?
No, I think they're further over in to the east,
Okay.
Tennessee area. So what I suggest to you,
You have to charge enough to cover your expenses, your taxes.
yeah. So I would say my guess would be 700-800. That's pretty cheap, probably. It depends on how many different colors. It depends on what I'm having to work with. When you're painting a mobile home, you got a lot of like wasp to deal with. Generally, you have loose metal that you might want to fasten. If you're getting paid by the hour, you can get all those things covered. You might want to seal after the fact, seal around the window. So whenever you do the paint job, talk to them about sealing the top of the top and the sides of the windows, not the bottom. Because if you get a water leak in a window, you want the water to come out. You don't want to trap it inside. That's a I don't do a whole lot of that, painting mobile homes. I have, but through the years it's not something I do regularly. So I would say 700-800 and usually get it done in a day or so. Starting out, that's what I would do. Generally, though, me and one of my youngest sons, a twin, probably get one done in about a day and a half. So it's gonna cost them about 800. It depends on what you're protecting too, because sometimes you got concrete to protect. You gotta buy the drop cloths and stuff like protect the deck because you got a real pretty deck. You can buy those things at Harbor Freight. Yeah, you wouldn't want to price anything over the phone. There's a lot of people. By the way, I don't know what the scam is exactly, but there's a ton of guys that call me and say, "Hey, I hear you got great," and usually the syntax is wrong, so they're not from English speaking, not American. "I need you to do work for me, very perfect work." And you're like, okay, there's no such thing as perfect work. But anyway, what they'll say is, "Would you go out and estimate the job for me?" And I always say, "Hey, when can you meet me out there?" "Oh, I can't. I'm in the hospital. I have lung cancer. I've had surgery and I can't get there." So don't do that. You don't even know if they're the owner of the home. You don't even know if they're going to have you do the work. They may just be taking, or maybe give you this for instance, you do the work and then they don't pay you because the owner never said that's agreed to it. This is just somebody that had you do the work.
It's a pretty big scam.
And by the way,
phone, email, and text.
Right.
All three.
Yep. Watch phone, email, or text. The things that we're supposed to trust. And by the way, there's a lot of people out there that will pay you with a credit card and then take that money back.
We did learn about Zelle, though.
Yeah, Zelle.
Yeah, because it's a bank-to-bank transfer. They can't do it. They can't reject it.
Zelle is a one-way street. It goes from their bank to yours. But like credit cards,
PayPal,
you can't prosecute without a lot of trouble. Like a bad check, and they stop payment on check, you can go to court and discuss it if that's what it takes. You can put a lien on the house. That's always an option, but it doesn't mean anything for a lien on a home until it's being remortgaged or sold. Then that lien has to be settled then. I don't want to be discouraging. I want you to be optimistic.
At the same time, we want to arm you because of things that we're seeing.
I don't want you to be stabbed in the heart right when you first start. And believe me, there's tons of people that you'll do work for and they won't pay you. I wouldn't say anywhere near 20%, but enough so that you'll be counting on that money and it won't be there. And if they pay you with a credit card, they can go back, I'm hearing, as much as 5 years and take that money back.
And the credit card companies themselves can do it if
they were making payments on that large sum
and they default
and they say, "I'm not making that payment anymore," the credit card company itself can say, "Well, we're taking that money back from that contractor." Be aware of that. So you need to be dealing with the person that you're doing the work for. They need to make the choices and you need to put it in writing.
And be careful of anybody that's out of state from you.
Yeah. Something about, people, this is another one we've learned. I've had to learn it over and over again. People are really, really nice to you. And then at the end of it all, they'll say, I'm not paying you because they don't live there. This is their vacation home, or they're bought it and having you fix it. And they don't live in the neighborhood. They don't care about their reputation. It doesn't make any sense. But there's a lot of people out there that can just feel like, hey, I live in California, so I don't care if I make a mess over here in Arkansas. Yeah, California's been a problem because those people have stomped on top of each other's feelings and their conscience until they don't have much.
Not everybody, but a good percentage.
There's a lot of those people that, big city people don't have the same conscience as everybody else because they've been taken advantage of. And it just becomes a way of life. So I don't let anybody when there's a big job, I start with a small amount. I don't try to get half up front and then half at the end, because at the end, half the job is now you're dancing around to do extra things that are not even in agreement, but you need that last half. He said, well, I need you to do this too. For the same cost? Yeah, I want you to do this. Otherwise, I just won't pay you, because I really think you ought to have done that. That should have been part of it. When a big job is, don't do smaller percentages, even if it's down to 10%. Start off, buy the material. Here's how much I spent on materials. Here's the receipt. You can't have the receipt because I need it for my taxes, but I'll show it to you. And then you can pay me for the materials and labor to the point that I've got it done. Say you got 10% of the job done after a week, you can collect then. And if they don't pay you, you're only out the 10%. And you stop right there. And you will not listen to me. And you will say, these are really nice people. And then those people will break your heart. And they will defeat your determination. You'll have to, somewhere in the wellspring of your person, you'll have to say, I'm going to go out there and try to believe in other people are going to be good. And there'll be enough of them that will make up for it. But every time these people take advantage of you, it will be as if, what did I do? Did I do something wrong? I hope
Bill, do I need a license to do small jobs? Is it legal to get paid in cash only for the job?
Yeah, it's legal. There's nothing illegal about it. When it comes down to checks, you can prosecute checks.
Cash is king.
Cash is king, because there's no more stop payment on check or insufficient funds, but a check is better than, it's okay. Cash is better than a check. Check is better than a credit card. That's their last one.
Maria's saying, I always buy my own materials and I pay my handyman separately in cash.
That guy will jump through hoops if you're paying him cash, because it takes so much of the worry. If anybody's been doing handyman work or not, you've had a bad experience after any length of time. It takes a load off of you that that person pays you to that point.
And that customer is going to be free.
And then if you screw up, then you can talk about, hey, I'm not going to pay you for all the damage that you did because you got to fix it. So that's where you're going to end up. Like, I've never had an insurance claim. Never. Don't count on that being the case. I have messed up things that I went ahead and fixed. So
we've had employees mess up things.
Yeah, I've had quite a bit of expense. I can tell you one. I had this guy named Gabriel working for me, and a real nice guy, but just over the top confident. And he's like, yeah, I could do this plumbing. And he, for whatever reason, he took purple primer into a white bathtub and spilt some of it on the white bathtub. After we already had the tub surround on and we were putting it all together, I had to pull the tub out because you can't get that purple out of there. There's just no way. That purple just... And I learned, the clear is better when you're working around anything plastic. I don't know that it still wouldn't have damaged, but believe me, I didn't want to lose my temper and make a guy. But if there was a point where I could have, it would have been that guy. That guy cost me money, hand over fist. But so what I'm leading up to is always leave yourself some cushion so sometimes people get in a pinch where they can't pay you, or their schedule is not ending the same time as you get the work done, so you have to chase them down to catch the money. I don't think it's always that they're dodging you. I think it's most of these people who have money are working hard for it, and they're hard to
Easy.
catch. There you go. You got more time that you didn't plan on. You had another job you want to go to, or you need to get home at a certain time. It'll end up, their busy schedule ends up affecting you. But that's what we do. We're trying to bend our schedule to help them, and and we're trying to. You guys with the children's there, you're gonna have that willingness to be kind to your brother because that's what we're told to do. So that'll help you.
It's a great business, especially right now.
The relationships you get are amazing.
Oh, yeah. You've got people that you've taken care of for 20, 30 years.
Yeah, they're friends. And I try to treat all customers like friends, but early on it's professional, and I try to keep that professional. I do what I say I'm going to do, and I get up embarrassed if I'm not on time for any reason. And I make explanation. I don't lie because I tell everybody, I don't tell little white lies or nothing because I tell everybody I don't have a good enough memory. But really, my conscience is worth more than that. I have to sleep with me. So when you're doing the work, just be honest and kind and understanding. Yeah, people will take advantage of you, but if you've already been living for any length of time, you've already seen it, you already done it. You're just gonna have to get on and not let it harden you, make you mean and hard. And so if you have the right motive, you'll get the work. You're just gonna have to expose yourself to people and get to know people, and they will tell other people.
Feel free to hustle too. If you hear somebody, and I do this for him now, if I hear somebody talking about how they need a handyman, I have no issues going, hey, my husband does that. Here's his number.
Yeah, back in the day, yeah.
No, I even do it now.
Even now. Well, I mean, I remember going to garage sales with my 3 boys as I was on my own, and people would stop and say, "What is it you do?" And I would say, "Oh, I'm a repairman. Do you have a card?" So even at garage sales, I would pick up work.
Be willing to talk to people.
Yeah, and you're trying. Sometimes you can talk to them about them wanting to do a job, and they have to save for a year or two for you, and then hey, you're
all of a sudden out of the blue.
Yeah, you're might be in the middle of another one. So it's like feast and famine. So you need to prepare for. This is my experience in the dead of winter, right before Christmas, because people spend money at that time and right after that. So you talk about a month before, 2 weeks before Christmas and 2 weeks after. You can count on that being slow. Then right before April 15th tax time and right after April 15th time, the people who have money will be cautious about spending it because they might have to pay it all in taxes that they have left and recovering after they paid the taxes. So somewhere between those two periods.
And the start of school.
Start of school too. Yeah, she's right. So in our area, it's around the middle of August.
You might want to have once you get yourself set, you might want to have a big job.
Yes. So what I generally do is say, hey, if you could wait, when I first started, if you could wait till I have a slow time, I'll give you a discount rate. I will give you a discounted hourly rate. If you're not pressured to get it done right now, and we want to do it whenever I have some slow time, I will do it for a cheaper rate. That way, no matter what, you have work. So normally I get $50 an hour for me. I will charge you $35, $40 an hour. If you'll just let me come in here and fix these things that we're talking about, I'll just call you up and say, hey, I'm heading over and we're going to work on the da-da-da. That has carried me through a lot of tough winter. There's a lot of things I don't drive fancy vehicles because I don't like having payments when I don't have any money or money coming in. So I drive vehicles that I can work on generally and that don't cost very much. So I stay around $2,000, $2,500, $3,000. And I know that sounds utterly ridiculous to some people. And yes, I do have to repair vehicles.
You don't usually even spend that much on your trucks. You spend that much on mine.
In this day and age, that doesn't sound like very much. But if you're not mechanically inclined, I understand why you would go out and get payments. I understand when you take on payments,
you got to pedal faster.
You cannot stand for very much slow time if you're going to rely on being a repair person.
And it takes 3 to 5 years to build up a business.
Yes. a lot of businesses fail the first year, and that includes the repair work. So generally, you'll find yourself being rewarded with the work of your hand. You'll find it very, very rewarding.
And make sure you learn as much as you can.
By the
Try
way, you're going
new
to
stuff.
spend more money than what you believe on tools.
Oh yeah.
And you'll always try to improve. I never quit spending money on tools. There's always new things out there, or the old things wear out. This battery thing, to me, it's almost like rentals. Those things last a year or two, and then they start going bad. Or if they last that long, things get, and people steal your stuff too.
Oh yeah.
So if you leave your truck uncovered and where people can walk by and grab it out in the city, if you go to a motel and stay overnight in some motel, you better have everything indoors. Yeah, you spend a lot of money on tools, and all that is a tax write-off. And if you're keeping up with your mileage, you can write it off on your taxes. It comes off your taxable income. It's rewarding and stressful at the same time. I would encourage anybody to try to do that, man or woman. Woman's a bit more dangerous because...
Especially now that so few people know how to work on things.
Yeah. There's, women, I've met women who do painting and things like drywall finishing. All those are skills that take time.
And we're just not built for it.
Yeah, women are not generally made to lift a 100-pound Type X piece of drywall or a 3/4 piece of plywood, a 4x8 piece of plywood, and swing it around. It's hard. It's hard on a little guy, but he can do it. Well, I personally think that there's a lot of work out there for the person that just wants stuff hauled off. If you got a truck and a trailer, there's whole apps with just lining up stuff to take to the dump.
Well, not only that, you could also gather that stuff and flip it.
Yeah, you can sell that stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of times people don't want it around anymore. They got other things that are more valuable to them, and they're going to get rid of those things. So your truck and your trailer can make money all in itself. Going to the dump, there's plenty of apps out there. Now, I used to do that anyway, but realtors, that's one of the first things that I would recommend is
contact every realtor in your area and say, hey, this is what I'm doing.
And you need to convey to that realtor who's always in a hurry
that you're going to help
that you're going to be a good person. A lot of realtors are women, say 70% of them. So you're going to provide them with the comfort that what you're going to be to get what they need done. So littlest things to the biggest things.
You get 4 or 5 of them,
and they know lots of people. Can you get work from Facebook? I believe you can. I just don't know how.
And I have a problem with Facebook, and so
well, I just, to me, it's tends to feel like, you ever seen two sets of dogs barking at a chain link fence? Too many people that can feel like they can say anything and not be held accountable.
And it also, you don't own that.
If you have a website on Facebook or a site on Facebook, you need to understand you don't own it.
Mm-mm.
They can shut it down anytime they want to. For anything that somebody said, you said.
Site, page, group.
You lose everything. So eventually you want to be friendly with somebody who can do that or do it yourself. There's plenty of people out there that do businesses on Facebook.
Childers family. Phil wanted to tell you a funny story that happened to a friend of mine. He did a roofing job in West Virginia, and the homeowner came out, and it was Gilligan, the actor from the show on Gilligan's Island.
He got off the island. Holy cow. He was on another TV series called Wagons East, or it was with both the skipper and him both they were heading a different direction for he was, wow, that's something else. There's a story that puts things in perspective. It's kind of off color, but the story is these guys are sitting around and this woman says, hey, for $200 I'll do anything you want. And the guy goes, go paint my house. Let's put things in perspective. What it actually, your skill is what it's worth, right? What you're doing is not something that's easily done. You're putting up with personalities. You're learning. Sometimes, honestly, I learn all the time. So you're never going to, that off balance feeling ends up being in confidence in yourself, because it's like I've done things that I didn't know very much about, and I'm doing them again.
And if you get hung up, you do have a lifeline.
Yeah, you can always give me a buzz. Yeah, I deal with people all the time. Hey man, this has got this situation. One of the guys that I used to have work for me, he lives in a bigger town from here. I may have him on the show and we'll talk. But he calls me up. Hey man, what do I do here? I got this tree that I got to cut. And I was like, well, why'd you get yourself into a tree? You don't know anything about cutting trees. I got to jack up this floor. How do I do it? Well, well, you should have talked to me before you got the job. But he's doing all right. He has to do other work to keep his repair business, and that will probably be one who survives. If he manages money right. He's a middle-aged guy, so and single. But there's a lot of things that you need to be cautious about, but you don't need to be so cautious that you don't do the work. You're always going to be learning. You're always going to be in a new situation, and there's rarely ever the same situation after the same situation.
That's why we have so many videos that will repeat similar jobs, but they're in a total different situation.
So like I'm jacking up a mobile home and then I'm putting a garage door in or fixing lights. That's the last 3 days. So,
and you were pulling termites earlier, pulling drywall, doing termite damage repair.
Yeah, there's a lot of things out there to learn. And I think I consider the challenge of learning as part of life. I'm still living, and the humility that I need to survive all that, and the confidence that comes with being through it. What is it? Tested by fire. You'll make mistakes. I remember one time one of my classic decisions was like, hey, I should always, if I'm the driver of a vehicle, I should always check the load, make sure it's tied down. And I'm like, hey, did you tie that tub surround or that full-blown tub? Did you tie it down? Yeah, I did. And it comes off. Yeah, then I'm buying a tub.
Which ain't cheap.
I remember one time I went like 60 miles and then I got pulled away from a stop sign and lost 30 sheets of 3/4 plywood into the highway, spread out over 40 feet in traffic because I didn't check. The guy who did it, he was like, yeah, blah, 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 but it's my responsibility if I check. It's their responsibility, sort of. Still my responsibility if it comes off the vehicle. So, you're going to make mistakes, but there are certain responsibilities you have to take if you're the person in charge. More power to you. I have every confidence that with a good heart and good intentions and with the goal of making other people's lives better, you will be successful. Hopefully I'm leaving you with a good message. You're always welcome to give me a ring. I enjoy talking to people. I enjoy people.
One of us has to.
She's been, before she met me, she was discouraged by people. But she and I have never fought. We just don't yell at each other. I stay busy doing what I do, and I make a lot of mess at home. I have a lot of stuff, a lot of projects always. So like the cobbler's kids have no shoes. My house is not fancy. It could be, but I have to pay a lot of taxes just to look good. I don't really want to pay taxes to look good. I don't purposely, but the county comes in there and says, oh, that's not much. That's fine with me. And, this place that I'm in right here, you got a white screen behind you, but this is a great big toy. They call it a toy store, but it's not. It's technically not. But there's 3 floors of a bunch of toys,
collectibles,
on the square in a little bitty town that actually is dying. And so I get cheap rent, and it this stuff grows in value. So as everything gets inflated, so does all this stuff. And I can't get this ratio of inflation in a savings account. The key to any success is working hard, is for sure, and change your relationship with money. And this is the homeowners that might be listening, or the persons who are trying to start a business. Change your relationship with money. Make it where you, instead of working for the money, You put your money where it works for you. That's changing your relationship, your dynamics. There's a lady that I just found. Her channel is Vann Tastic, and she talks about velocity banking, how to pay off your house really quick.
She's pretty good.
Save yourself a ton of money, and she shows you how. She's not a financial advisor, but I'm telling you, the key to things, you can slow down and do a good, even better job and lose a little bit of money if you are making money somewhere else. I wish you all the best, guys. I apologize for our technical difficulties, but we'll get better. We'll just keep working at it. And glad to have you along. And we'll see you next Saturday. Save up any questions you have, and hopefully I'll have the answer. See ya.